everyone. Today we're going to be talking about how to build healthy romantic relationships through interpersonal communications by Liv, Charlie, Landon, and Madison. Why this workshop? Well, this workshop targets college students, specifically speaking UCSB students. All college students struggle thriving in their romantic relationships because they're young and naive, but UCSB students are a rare case, but we can get into that later in the lecture. Our workshop is designed to teach students how to properly communicate with their partners' social networks, which means friends, family, any sort of external influence, and how to handle outside conflict such as external stress. Our workshop will also teach students how their mental health can affect their relationships. So the foundation of a healthy romantic relationships and all relationships speaking comes from communication. The key to a healthy and successful relationship is communication. For starters, effective communication is a necessity for a long-lasting and healthy relationship. You and your partner's tone of voice, for example, if you're having a conversation with them and they're just not engaging with eye contact, with body language, or they just don't seem interested, it can show distance in the conversation. Another factor is how poor communication can lead to conflict and create new problems. Also, expressing your concerns and boundaries with your partners will help improve future conflicts. Why college changes the way we communicate? Well, first of all, we're entering a whole new environment with new responsibilities, and we're faced with new challenges such as learning to do your laundry, paying rent, learning how to cook, and just basic household work. Another change is a change in environment, living with other people rather than your family, like roommates, and learning how to respect their boundaries as well as your own. And then a newfound sense of independence. For example, you hold yourself responsible to go to class and who you hang around with, and learning how, especially speaking UCSB students, how academically vigorous this environment is. So specifically speaking, as I said, UCSB students and the unique pressures they face on the daily. A small town, as known as Isla Vista, of course, is a place to be for UCSB students every weekend. There's constant partying, and we're all kind of crammed in together, which just keeps a constant social life. And with a tight-knit community like Isla Vista, students tend to prioritize partying and their social life over school. The UC and UCSB tends to be forgotten, leading into extra academic stress. For example, the party culture and the hookup culture and the social pressures students face, the shared living spaces and the congested housing, and how this can affect your relationship if you never get alone time with your significant other. And of course, the famous motto, work hard, play hard. Pretty much this means UCSB has a 33 to 38 acceptance rate and is ranked the #1 party school in the US, which kind of contradicts itself, but it is true. Like I said before, living in Isla Vista, especially Del Playa, is constantly buzzing with noise and parties, and it's easy to get distracted. And also, the classes here are very, very hard. So learning how to accommodate your partner and find time to also take care of yourself can be a challenge. Relationship struggles while in college. So specifically speaking, learning how to confront your partner about certain concerns can be very intimidating. But just know that ignoring the problems can worsen the situation. Another problem which arises regarding confrontation is the fear of rejection. College students are still maturing and learning how to deal with their own insecurities, so the thought of confronting your significant other is terrifying. By understanding your own boundaries and your self-worth, it will help with confrontation. Learning how to balance your social life and your personal time, such as your mental health and your physical health, is important, and internal stress can affect relationships. For example, if you're going through something personal at home and you don't communicate that with your partner, your short temper or your lack of communication may make them think that something's wrong between the two of you, when it's really just a personal issue. So external pressures influencing relationships. Now, this one's kind of tricky because we're faced with this every day. We constantly have your friends telling you what they think of how much time you spend with them, and like your partner, and then your family, of course, their opinion matters. So another one can also be the quarter system and the fast-paced, like academic stuff, and then learning how to balance your relationship with your social networks and your families. Done.
College is a huge life transition for most students. Suddenly you're balancing academics, friendships, finances, and thinking about your future all at once. Because of all these changes, it's really common for students to experience stress, anxiety, and sometimes insecurity. There are also a lot of special pressures in college, like maintaining friendships, managing relationships, and figuring out who you are as a person. This time of identity exploration can be exciting, but it can also affect how people communicate with their partners and handle relationship challenges. When people feel stressed or overwhelmed, their communication often changes without them realizing it. For example, someone might become short-tempered or easily irritated. They might emotionally withdraw and stop sharing how they feel. Stress can also lead to misinterpretation, where someone assumes the worst about what their partner meant. Sometimes people also avoid being fully honest because they don't want to start conflict or deal with more stress. Small situations can quickly turn into bigger conflicts when assumptions are made. For example, imagine your partner goes out with friends and doesn't invite you. Instead of asking about it, someone might assume they didn't want me there. That assumption can lead to feelings of exclusion, which then causes cold or distant responses. Those reactions can quickly escalate into a bigger argument, even though the original situation may have been harmless. Many college students experience miscommunication because of the environment they're in. Students often face high academic expectations, busy social lives, and close living environments where they constantly interact with others. Because of this, stress can build up quickly. When people are overwhelmed, they may misinterpret a text message or tone or assume negative intentions that weren't actually there. By the end of this workshop, our goal is for students to develop stronger communication skills in their relationships. First, students should be able to express their emotions clearly and constructively. Second, they should learn how to recognize and communicate personal boundaries. Third, they should feel more confident navigating conflict with their partner. And finally, they should understand how communication directly shapes the quality and health for their relationships. To help students develop these skills, this workshop follows a structured outline. First, we'll introduce key communication theories that help explain how people interact in relationships. Next, we'll discuss common challenges that couples face, especially in a college environment. Then we'll move into practicing communication skills and strategies. And finally, we'll provide practical tools that students can use in their everyday relationships. Communication is the exchange of thoughts, feelings, and meaning between people. It includes both verbal and nonverbal communication. Verbal communication includes things like face-to-face conversations, texting, emails, or phone calls. Nonverbal communication includes tone or voice, facial expressions, body language, and eye contact. These nonverbal cues are extremely important because they help people understand the emotions and intentions behind someone's words. Communication plays a major role in a romantic relationship. It helps build emotional closeness and trust between partners. It also shapes how couples handle disagreements or conflict. Good communication helps partners feel supported and secure in the relationship. For example, if someone shares that they're stressed out about an exam and their partner listens and reassures them, that interaction can increase feelings of support and connection. It is important to understand that communication changes over time in relationships. Relationships naturally evolve as people grow and their needs and expectations shift. Like stressors, experiences and responsibilities can influence how partners communicate. For example, during the honeymoon phase, couples can text constantly and spend lots of time together. But as schedules get busier with school, work, and other commitments, couples may need to shift toward more intentional check-ins and meaningful conversations.
Communication just isn't about the words we say, it's shaped by what's going on around us. Like things like stress from midterms, a heavy workload, your social life, or even your mental health can affect how clearly and calmly you communicate with your partner. For example, if you're super stressed about a big project, you might snap at your partner over something small. That's why it's important to recognize the context you're in and give yourself and your partner a little patience. So dynamic communication means communication is always changing. As we grow, as our schedules change and our priorities shift, the way we talk to our partner changes too. What worked at the start of your relationship might not work later, so the key is being flexible and willing to adapt. At UCSB, this is really common. At the beginning of your relationship, you might text or call constantly, check in every hour, but as classes get harder, jobs or internships take more time, and social events pop up, communication shifts into shorter check-ins, and that's normal. It's just the relationship adapting to your busy college life. So, transitional communication is about a two-way, real-time exchange. Both people are sending messages and receiving them at the same time. This makes conversations more interactive and responsive. It's not just talking, it's reacting, adjusting, and understanding each other as you go. So an example of transitional communication is if one partner had a stressful day and needs to vent, the other listens, nods, and maybe puts a hand on their shoulder and responds verbally with empathy. Both people are contributing at the same time. One is sharing and the other is reacting. That back and forth is what makes conversation effective and supportive. So dyadic communication is basically one-on-one communication. It's just you and your partner talking, which is important because it helps avoid confusion or mixed messages. Having private, focused conversation builds trust and lets you really understand each other. So an example of dyadic communication is if you feel jealous or upset about something, it's better to talk directly with your partner instead of venting to friends first. This keeps things between you two, prevents gossip or outside influence, and makes problem solving easier and faster. So the impact of communication. The way you communicate has a huge impact on your relationship. Positive communication, like compliments, encouragement, or calm discussions, can make your partner feel supported and valued. On the flip side, yelling, sarcasm, or ignoring issues can hurt trust and make conflicts worse. It's not just about what you say, it's how you say it, and being intentional about your words can really strengthen your connection.
Alright, here are some examples of positive versus negative impacts. Communication can have a huge impact on the health of a relationship. Small choices in how we speak or respond to our partner can either strengthen the relationship or create tension. For example, using positive communication includes things like using a calm tone during disagreements, listening to your partner's perspective, and expressing your feelings using I statements instead of blame. These behaviors help build trust and understanding. On the other hand, negative communication are behaviors like yelling, sarcasm, interruption, or avoiding conversations, and they can escalate conflict and make partners feel unheard. The key takeaway here is that how we communicate is often just as important as what we communicate. Another important concept is interpersonal communication competence. This refers to the ability to communicate in ways that are appropriate, effective, and ethical for the situation. In romantic relationship, this means being able to clearly express your thoughts and emotions while also being able to listen and understand your partner's perspective. Competent communicators are able to adapt their communication depending on the situation. For example, talking to a stressed partner might require patience and empathy, while a discussion about boundaries may require direct and honest communication. Developing these skills can lead to a healthier and more satisfying relationship. Why we use communication theories. In communication studies, theories help us understand why certain interactions happen and why some communication patterns work better than others. Instead of just saying communicate better, theories give us frameworks that explain relationship behaviors and help us predict how communication choices may affect outcomes. For example, theories can explain why misunderstandings occur, why some conflicts escalate quickly, or why certain communication styles make people feel supported. In this workshop, we use communication theories to turn everyday relationship experiences into practical skills students can apply in real life. One theory that helps explain relationship communication is communication accommodation theory, or CAT. This theory suggests that people naturally adjust their communication style based on the person they're interacting with. These adjustments might include changes in tone, word choice, or body language. For example, someone might speak more calmly if their partner is upset, or slow down their speech if the other person seems overwhelmed. The goal of these adjustments is usually to increase understanding and strengthen social connection. Convergence. One concept within communication accommodation theory is convergence. Convergence happens when someone adapts their communication style to become more similar to the person they're interacting with. In a romantic relationship, this might look like matching your partner's tone during a serious conversation, slowing down your speech when they're stressed, or showing empathy when they're upset. When done effectively, convergence can help partners feel understood and supported, which strengthens emotional and connectional trust. Divergence. Another concept is divergence, which is when someone maintains or emphasizes differences in communication style rather than adapting to the other person. For example, if one partner is trying to have a serious conversation, but the other responds with sarcasm or emotional distance, that could be divergence. Sometimes divergence can be used intentionally to maintain independence or identity, but in romantic relationships, it can also lead to misunderstanding or emotional distance if partners are not aligned in how they communicate. Communication adjustments can also become ineffective if they go too far in either direction. Over-accommodation happens when someone tries too hard to adjust their communication. This can come off as artificial, exaggerated, or even patronizing. Under-accommodation is the opposite. This occurs when someone makes little or no effort to adapt their communication to their partner's emotional needs for their situation. For example, ignoring a partner's stress or refusing to change tone during conflict can make the other person feel dismissed or unsupported. Communication accommodation theory in romantic relationships. In romantic relationships, accommodation plays a major role in how partners handle conflict and support each other emotionally. When partners adjust their communication in balanced and thoughtful ways, it can reduce conflict escalation, increase emotional support, and help both partners feel understood. However, if communication adjustments are ignored or misused, it can lead to repeated arguments, resentment, or emotional distance. This is why understanding how to adapt communication effectively is an important relationship skill. UCSB example using communication accommodation theory. To connect this theory to a real-life college situation, imagine one partner is extremely stressed before midterms. An effective communication approach would be adjusting tone and expectations, speaking calmly, offering support, or giving space if needed. However, ineffective communication might involve pressuring that partner to go out socially, starting arguments during peak stress, or taking their irritability personally. By recognizing situations like this, partners can adjust their communication in ways that reduce tension and strengthen the relationship.
Okay, so why does accommodation within a romantic relationship matter? Well, first of all, when there's misunderstandings, which is a very common issue in all types of relationships, learning how to adopt your partner's habits and communicating to their expectations can make it easier to become more compliant with one another. Another reason is to increase trust. By meeting your partner halfway in communication, it will increase both of your happiness. Also, being honest is a huge part of a successful and healthy romantic relationship. How to properly resolve conflict. One way you can do that is just by adjusting your tone, you can de-escalate disagreements like this. Emotional support is another one. By validating and respecting your partner's feelings, even when you disagree with them, can go a long way. And as far as long-term stability goes, learning how to balance your partner, their social networks, and your social networks will help create a healthy and happy relationship. So the Johari window is a 4-parts window theory, but a simple summary before we get into that. The Johari window is a model which explains what we do and what we do and what we don't know about ourselves, and what others do or what others don't know about ourselves. It's all kind of about self-awareness. So the goal of this being applied to our workshop is to help us understand self-awareness and how to apply these communication skills to real-life relationships. So the first part is open self, which is things you and others know about you. The second part is blind self, things others see about you but you don't notice about yourself. The third part is hidden self, things you know about yourself but you keep hidden from others. And then the fourth is unknown self, things neither of you know about each other. So open versus hidden self. As I said before, it's things you and the public both know about yourself. It can include certain personality traits, interests, opinions, hobbies, But why does this matter in a romantic relationship? Well, number one, it builds trust and encourages honesty. Through sharing feelings and experiences, you can get to know your partner's wants, needs, and just kind of like what they expect of you. Another reason is it reduces conflict. It encourages to be open about your feelings and decreases conflict. So hidden versus hidden self. Things that you keep private about yourself. Personal feelings, fears, emotions. And why does this matter? Well, the positive side of hidden self and keeping your personal business away from the open eye is it creates privacy within your romantic relationship. It allows your partner to trust you and with their personal information. A negative part about it is if you use hidden self too much, your partner could feel a disconnect. They feel like you're hiding something from them, but in reality, you just don't want to share that part about you. So blind self. Blind self improves. Blind self. Next one, sorry. Blind self improves self-awareness. Partners could notice the behaviors about each other that we don't realize about ourselves. So taking time to reflect on your actions is very important. The second thing is it encourages honesty. Honest feedback from any sort of relationship sometimes may come off as you wanting to be defensive, but honestly, it's great because it helps us grow as people. It can prevent the same problem from happening over and over again, which is a huge one. If we're unaware of our actions and how they affect others, and we don't do anything to try and improve them, it can repeatedly harm others and harm our relationship and ourselves. Oops. Lastly, strengthening communication. Open conversations about blind spots help partners better understand each other. So the next slide is Johari window in relationships. So how do we apply this concept of open, hidden, closed self to relationships? So the main idea is explain how sharing information and receiving feedback can help your partner better understand each other's wants and needs. But why does this matter? Self-disclosure. So self-disclosure is switching information from the hidden to the open area. Feedback helps lessen the blind area, and this will build trust, help communication, help partners better understand each other's feelings. Connecting theory to real problems.